Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Timmy Sullivan. I'm a junior at the Burlington High School Help Desk. Welcome to the 22nd episode of Help Desk Live. Just a reminder to all of our viewers, this will be available on the Help Desk YouTube channel. I am here today with Colin Gilboy and Kelly McDermott. They work at Ginger Labs, which brought us the wonderful Notability iOS application. It's pretty fantastic, if I do say so myself. So I just want to say hello to you guys, if you want to introduce yourselves.
Sure. Hello. Kelly, why don't you go first?
I'm Kelly. I do quite a few things here, but mostly working with customers, doing customer support and social media, and then also getting to do fun stuff like this and connect with students and users and go a little bit beyond just support.
And I'm Colin. Hello. I'm the lead engineer here. I was the first employee at the company, so I've been here for a while, and I've gotten to see the progression of Notability throughout the years, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about it.
Awesome. So the first question that I have for you guys is, how did Notability really come to be about? I know it's really dynamic and it's note-taking capabilities. I was wondering sort of what the thought process behind that was.
Notability developed pretty organically. So our company started with the intention to help people improve their senses. So to use technology to improve sight, hearing, mostly those two. And this was around when the iPhone was first available and the iOS SDK first became available. So third-party companies like ours could start developing software for iOS applications. So we had we had the iPhone 1 at the time, and we said, hey, we can make a hearing aid with this. So I happened to study audio signal processing, which is the math and engineering behind how to work with sound in a computer. That's one way to say it. So I was able to develop this application that worked like a digital hearing aid, but in an iPhone. So you'd put your earbuds in, and you'd point the microphone at what you wanted to hear, and it would do the right things to make what you were listening to louder without making them too loud, which is, in a very abstract sense, the purpose of a digital hearing aid. And that was a fun project, and it worked for some people. But then Apple released the iPad, and this was a new paradigm in computing for people. We had this big touch interface that you could take with you anywhere. And we said, oh, well, we did some really neat things with SoundAmp. That was our hearing aid application, including some neat recording features. And included among those was the ability to, while you're recording, you can just tap on the screen and it would bookmark in time the thing that you had tapped. So if, Timmy, you said something very interesting during this conversation, I could say, oh, I want to bookmark this so I can come back to it later. And we said, okay, now we've got this iPad, this big screen. We could do more than just bookmark a recording. We could have a running recording, and we could be taking notes or drawing little doodles and have those things be bookmarked in time with the recording. And we thought that could really improve note-taking in a meeting or a classroom. So that was where the idea for Notability was born and how the first version of the application came to be. And we released it with the iPad 1 on release day, which is exciting. But if you were able to see Notability version 1 right now, you'd say, that doesn't look a lot like Notability that I know. And it has evolved a lot since then.
Yeah, it's even changed since I've been here in about 2 years.
It's a very dynamic thing. As iOS evolves and the look and feel of it change, we have to roll with that. So that's been great for us. Yeah, that's
Awesome.
how it was born.
That leads perfectly into my next question, actually. So I was wondering how, if at all, the vision for Notability is really changed throughout the course of this. If it, started as one thing and you thought you guys were, oh, maybe we should go this way with it, and really how that's taken off and evolved throughout the different developmental stages.
So version 1 of Notability was able to do a couple of things. Mostly you were able to type text and draw little encapsulated figures. And the interface for it looked almost like the text messaging interface. So you would type your little mini note almost, and it would show up in a little window, and then you add a next one below that, and these things would kind of like flow up the screen. And it wasn't until 2011 that we actually added handwriting, which is very much a core part of the application now.
Love that.
People really started to use the application. So that's really when everything came together.
So I love personally how Notability can accommodate so many different learners. Like you said, how you started with the audio piece, you can record all of my lectures. So I can sit in class, and if I'm not really understanding something, or if it's really complex and I know I need to return to it later, I can record it and listen to that. And I love that feature, especially mixed with the handwriting, because there are so many studies that show that ink is so much more effective than text, and you can manipulate practically anything on that. And it's just there are so many possibilities with what you can do. I just love how accommodating that is for everyone. So the next thing I have for you guys is we've actually integrated Notability as one of our foundational apps at Burlington High School. So we are one-to-one. Everyone has an iPad, and Notability is on every single iPad. Every single student is using it in the school to take notes, to record lectures, to express themselves creatively. And I know myself, just getting bored or needing to do something creative, I've found other ways to use the application without just manipulating a worksheet. So what are some of the creative ways that you guys have seen people really take Notability to a new level?
One of the most impressive things I think we've seen is there is an illustrator who created a whole visual chemistry book in Notability, and it's available through iBooks. And she started like sketching it on paper, but then moved it into Notability, and it's really mind-blowing to look at. We did share it at one point on our Facebook page, and she realized that for a lot of people, chemistry is learned best when it's seen, so it has to be visual, and that's why she decided to create this textbook, because she couldn't find anything out there like that for students. And it's insane with the amount of detail that she put into it, and it's really, really impressive to look at. So I definitely recommend checking that out if you want to see something really mind-blowing done with Notability. We see a lot of sketch notes as well from users. We're lucky enough that our users like to share their work with us on Twitter and on Facebook. And we actually just saw a pretty cool set of sketch notes just yesterday, actually. So that's one way to kind of go a little bit beyond a classroom environment. I mean, yes, it's still education-based, but I think a lot of people, when they think classroom, they think worksheets and taking notes and homework, and that's it. But we see other ways that people are using Notability for not just kind of that little bubble that people get stuck in, but it still relates to education. And then even beyond that, we have a lot of teachers telling us that, which I'm sure teachers at your school do, is using it for editing and creating feedback and comments, whether it's on a paper or some sort of project or a presentation a student has given. They're able to do all that in Notability, and if the student is using Notability as well, it's really easy to send it back and kind of have that exchange of information, ideas, and feedback between students and teachers. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I love definitely the Twitter interactions of interacting with you guys a few times, just creating some little sketches or doodles or something. And it's great because it's so motivating to see that, like, oh wow, you guys actually recognize that, and that's so awesome.
Well, we love getting to see it, so it's just as exciting for us as it is for you guys to get to see what people are, I guess, using Notability for and kind of putting it to the test in a way.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. It's something that you guys created and people are running with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. It's definitely motivating. And I saw that the chemistry video, actually. I think that you guys had
yeah.
posted that. That was incredible.
Yeah.
That's what inspired me to start using it in more ways than just scribbling down my notes. So all of my class notes, I go home and make them pretty.
Yeah.
Great.
So what do you guys think makes Notability the superior note-taking app? I understand this is a little biased, but...
Yeah. For me, personally, I really like that it does handwriting. I am not a very fast typer, especially on the iPad, so being able to just sort of scribble things out in my handwriting it just makes it so much easier. And like you mentioned earlier, I actually do remember stuff better if I write it down. I really like that, and it's been really helpful as well to be able to share things. I've got 2 younger siblings who are in college, and they will actually send me their papers to mark up and edit before they turn them in. And it's been really helpful for doing that. And it's something that's really difficult to do when you don't have a handwriting feature, because when there's handwriting, you're able to just sort of place it anywhere on the page. You're not restricted like to some sort of like, oh, you have to type in this margin in order to add a comment. So things don't really run together, and I feel like it's so much more flexible than just pure typing. So that's my favorite part.
I like to speak to its comprehensive simplicity in 2 words.
That too.
Just it can do almost anything you want it to do. Maybe I'm giving it too much credit there, but it can do an awful lot of things, but we've spent many hours trying to make it as simple and accessible to use as possible. And I think that's where it really shines relative to other note takers.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know, Kelly, you just mentioned the annotation feature. I was just I was away for a little bit, and we had an English assignment due, and I couldn't take all of my papers with me and my books and such, so I was annotating on my iPad with Notability, and that was the only tool that I could actually get really in between the words with. And just the precision with it too is like it follows exactly where my finger is going. And I remember when I first got Notability my freshman year, one of my friends had said, oh, you have to get this, and I tried it out, and there were a few other things I was trying, and I was just so astonished with like the precision of the touch. Everywhere I marked with my finger, I was getting a stroke of ink, and it was incredible.
Thank you, Tim. I'll have to tell our engineer, who's mostly in charge of that handwriting feature, give him the process for that.
Yeah.
So I understand that you guys are promoting a beta testing thing right now. I'm actually privileged to be part of that, but for anyone who doesn't really know what that entails, could you guys explain a little bit about that, sort of the feedback process, what their role would really require?
Yeah. I guess the best way to describe beta testers is they're sort of, in a way, guinea pigs, sort of. I mean, it's not the best term to use, but what they get to do is kind of test everything out before we push it out into the world and let us know how they're using it in their everyday life. It lets us see, like, okay, here's a user, or we've got, a whole variety of users using it in different ways every single day, and they let us know, okay, this works for me, this doesn't, this can be improved. And by getting that feedback directly to us while they're beta testing is really helpful to see what we need to fix, or maybe what we should change in order for it to work better every day.
From the engineering team's perspective, it's an interesting way to get our code tested by people who use the application in a real day-to-day way, as opposed to us using it internally. Frankly, we know too much about how it works, which means that we will use it in a way that's that reflects that knowledge. So if I know exactly how the handwriting engine works, I might work around little quirks in it without really consciously thinking about that. But when we have the opportunity to put those code changes that we've made in front of people who use this just in their day-to-day lives, and we can get feedback from them, oh, this isn't working exactly how I think it should, we get to work beyond that fact that we have that pre-knowledge of what we've engineered already. And I think that's very helpful to the team.
Plus, so many more people get to test it when it's in beta than just our small team.
Right.
Absolutely. So it's definitely a great feature for you guys, and honestly an awesome feature for us, because it allows us to feel like we're really partaking in the app. We're not just using it anymore. We become part of this community with it, which I know is a really rewarding reason why I signed up to be a beta tester. But for anyone who doesn't know, how can you go about applying to test for Notability?
That's a good question. I actually don't know the specifics of how to sign up for it, but I will say this much. We're actually limited by the technology in play to only have a set of, a limited set of beta testers. So we can't just open it up to the whole world. that would be great. So I'm not sure if our enrollment is open right now. Do you know
I believe it is. There's a couple different ways on our Facebook page, and I know through Twitter we've posted a link. It's a Google sign-up form, and we would need your first and last name, your email address, and then just kind of a brief description of why you think you would make a good beta tester for us. And we sift through those and kind of cherry pick who would be great for beta testing. And like Colin said, we do have, a certain amount that we can take. So we go through and figure out who would be great for that. And then also we sometimes have users approach us and tell us that they're interested in being a beta tester, either through email or through social media. And they're like, hey, I think you guys are really cool, and I want to see what else I can be involved with and how I can help you. And so then we will help get them signed up. And then we also reach out to users. Maybe users have we just today offered someone a spot on our beta team. He wrote to us on Facebook and was very articulate in describing his feedback, and that's really what we want. The more details that users can give us, the better they're going to be for our beta team. So if we see those sort of emails or Facebook posts or something like that, we might say, you know what, you sound like you'd be great for our beta team. If you're interested, this is how you sign up, and we'd love to have you. So there's a couple different ways to become part of it, but the biggest way that we collect is through the sign up form. So if anyone's interested, you can find it on our Facebook page.
All right, so the final question that I've got for you guys today is really about the app making process in general. I know that there are a lot of students looking to produce content out there. There's a lot of educators watching, people who know how to code, and for me personally, I think that Notability is truly a revolutionary app in terms of note-taking, and it just stands alone in the App Stores, the possibilities that it can hold. And so what advice would you give to someone interested in creating something so extraordinary? If they have an idea and they feel as though it should really be put to use, what would you suggest they should go about to do that?
That's a good question. I'm of two, from an engineering perspective, I'm of two minds about that. Mm-hmm. One is, as a high school student, I would focus on the fundamentals of development and not necessarily pursuing the product I have in mind immediately. That speaks less to an entrepreneurial spirit, more to, if you want a career in engineering, the fundamentals of math and frankly the sciences as well are going to take you further than sort of pursuing a single product at this point, I think, in your career. That said, if you know that you have the best idea out there, there are some great resources to just start learning about coding online. These places like Code Academy, where you can really learn live through a website how to code in a particular language. These resources are amazing. They weren't available when I was in school, and I feel jealous of the current generation of learners. I think they're amazing. The other thing that I think has helped us in our success has been feedback with our customer base, which Kelly has been at the forefront of for a while. We get really valuable information. Hearing back from real people how they use the application, because you can't strictly take what someone says they want or what someone says they're doing with the application, but the more good information we get from users, the more we can build a context around how we can improve it and how we can make everyone's lives better.
Awesome.
Yeah, not really. You covered it pretty well.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for being here. A big thank you to Ginger Labs for all your time and definitely help with my note-taking capabilities on the iPad. Very big thank you for that. Thanks to our audience for watching the 22nd episode of Help Desk Live. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay tuned next week for another episode of Help Desk Live.
Thanks, Timmy. We look forward to your beta feedback. All right.